Before we get started, you should probably know who I am. A couple of you probably do from my days at McCord, but I am Mr. Clarkson, and I taught English for 10 years at Southview High School, and then I taught English for 3 years at McCord. And now, for the last couple of years, I have left the classroom because the district asked me to run around our junior highs and high schools helping teachers with digital technology. Basically, the story is that I was using Chromebooks for paperless classrooms at McCord a little bit before anybody else was, and doing it so much that they said, hey, you do this and you do this really well, a lot of teachers need your help, so why don't you leave the classroom, stop teaching students, and start teaching teachers. So that's what I do now. You might have seen me around these halls because I visit Northview often assisting teachers. But I'm not here really because of that, because you might be thinking, okay, so you've got experience with Chromebooks and computers and smartphones. Why are you talking to us about college essays? Yeah, I'm an English teacher, but I also do a heavy amount of work in private tutoring outside of school, primarily on SAT and ACT prep and college essay writing. So I work with students quite often, especially this time of year, in helping craft their college essays, and I've been doing that for years. So I'm drawing mostly from that experience and somewhat from my experience as an English teacher in talking to you today. So I'd like to give you the benefits of those experiences. So that's a little bit about me. Anybody care to introduce themselves? Nobody's going to take the plunge and introduce themselves?
You're seniors, huh?
First session we had 3 hands like go up immediately. Last session I had 4 or 5. Thank you.
I'm Mitch Gibson. I'm a senior at Northview, and I am ready to go to college.
Except for the Mitch Gibson, I think I had all that when you walked in, but thanks Mitch, appreciate it.
I'm Brad Crandall, I'm also a senior at Northview. I'm also looking to go to college. I'm a Rocketeer.
I'm a Rocketeer as well.
He's also
Can you help me understand what that means?
We like to throw rocks.
Okay, I thought that that's what that meant, but I wanted to be sure. Anybody else? No? Nobody else going to take the plunge? Okay. Well, then I'll take the plunge. Let me introduce myself. You're probably saying, you just did that. No, I didn't. I didn't introduce, you don't know me. You don't know anything about me. You're laughing because you know it's right. You know where I've taught, and you know what I do. You don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about me personally, so let me do a little bit more of a personal introduction. When I was sitting in your position, as an 18-year-old looking at college, I had no idea really what I wanted to do. I loved movies. I thought I might be a film director. But you could populate LA 3 times over with the number of high school boys who decide they want to be film directors and go out there to do that, and most of them are failures. And I was smart enough to know that. Big gamble. So I thought, got cold feet. Maybe I'm not going to do that. So what should I do? I was a National Merit Scholar. I thought, UT's given full rides for National Merit Scholars. I could go there, get everything for free, get a stipend on top of it. My parents promised me a car if I did that, and take an English degree. I was good in English, good at reading and writing, always did well in those classes, did really well on the AP test, so I thought, sure, why not? Let's do that. Still pretty aimless. I meandered about for my undergraduate degree, did it pretty fast because I went through summers, so there I was in December, about to graduate early, still had no idea what I was going to do. I had a part-time job. I thought, that could be a full-time job for a while until I figure out what's going on. Thought maybe in the fall, check out film school again, go for a film master's. But then I was sitting in my philosophy class, and the philosophy professor asked, are any of you graduating this term? And I raised my hand. It was rare for somebody to graduate in December, so I was the only person in the class that did that. And he pulled me out in the hall afterwards and said, would you like a graduate assistantship in philosophy to take a graduate degree here at UT? I'm like, what does that mean? Like, well, take a master's in philosophy, we pay for everything, and we give you a paycheck on top of it. That sounds better than a job. So sure, I'll go ahead and do that. And so in January, the next year, I started in the master's program at the University of Toledo in philosophy. I didn't even think I was going to finish. I thought, I'm going to go 2 quarters into this and then bail and go to film school. But I was shocked. I found out that I really liked it. I liked philosophy, so I stuck with it in the fall. And then in that second year, they gave me my first class to teach, because often graduate students get to teach classes. So I got to teach Introduction to Philosophy. And you know what college classrooms are like. The professor or lecturer is usually down the bottom with the rows kind of going up. Some of them are huge. This first class was not very big at Rocket Hall, but still, the students were arrayed in front of me, all waiting for me to lead them. Instead of being nervous, instead of being scared, I was exhilarated. I was excited. I was leading discussion on books that I had selected for students to read. We were talking about Plato, we were talking about Socrates, David Hume, John Locke, Ayn Rand. We were trading philosophical ideas. And I was leading this group. And I was stimulating people that had never thought about philosophy before to think about philosophy. And I was constructing the assignments. And I was reading the essays. And I was organizing this group. I was teaching. I had never taught anything before. But I immediately felt comfortable. And all that aimlessness started to drip away. Philosophy, teaching film at UT, teaching English at Terra Community College, Owens Community College, teaching online, teaching offline. I taught for the next few years, graduated with that degree, and then thought, teaching's fantastic, what am I going to do next? And decided I want to be a teacher. Teaching at college wasn't really teaching. You see adults like twice a week. You don't get that close mentorship, so I thought, I want to really be a teacher. I want to teach in high school. Went to Bowling Green, got my 7 through 12 integrated language arts license, took a student teaching position at Southview High School, and immediately after that student teaching position, they had 3 openings in the English department, and I just slid right into one. Taught at Southview for 10 years, McCord for 3. Continued to teach for UT for a while until I became too busy and couldn't do that. Started tutoring outside, and now I teach teachers. And I love it as much today as I did with that first Intro to Philosophy class. And I sometimes move around, go from Southview to McCord, outside, because I love teaching in different environments with different populations. Here I am doing something different, teaching you folks. And I love the experience. Because I found out, and I wish I'd known it earlier, but maybe it wasn't meant to be that way, that I'm a teacher. That's all I should be, and that's all I will ever be. I like to think I'm pretty good at it, and I like to think that it's meaningful, what I do. It's the best job ever. So I finally found my purpose. Do you know a little bit more about me now? That's an introduction. That's a personal introduction. We're talking about college essays today because my first introduction to you, you could have gotten from my resume. You don't want my resume, it's dry reading. All resumes are dry reading. You are about to give admissions boards your transcripts. They have your SAT and ACT scores. They have your AP scores. They have lists of extracurriculars. They have your service organizations and devotions. They know all the stats on you. They don't know who you are. The college essay is an opportunity to tell them who you are, to introduce yourself to them. You've got to take that opportunity. You can't simply write about what they already know. You've got to introduce yourself to them personally and impress them that you are the kind of person that is passionate and competent and belongs on their campus. So let's move off my story onto an actual example. So if you look at the resources that are available on here, this is not much of a handout. They're like, I've got some points that I'm going to discuss. Down at the bottom, I have a couple of resources for links. One of those is an awesome page from Johns Hopkins University called Essays That Worked. I encourage you to take a look at it. I'm about to read one of those essays from that page. The essays are fantastic, and the Johns Hopkins folks even made commentary on what impressed them about the essay. It's a great resource if you are planning your own college essay. I'm going to read one, and you can feel free to read along if you'd like. The handout, there is that link down at the bottom, Johns Hopkins Essays That Worked, or you can just listen to me. And this is the first one for the class of 2020, so this girl is a freshman this year, if I do the math correctly. We know her name is Jody, and this is called Just Keep Folding. This essay, by the way, I could see as an answer to a Common App prompt. So I'll read it for you. Just keep folding. Having explored the myths from ancient Greece, Rome, and Egypt, my curiosity was piqued in 8th grade by a simple legend from Japanese lore. If you fold 1,000 paper cranes, the gods will grant you one wish. I took it as a challenge. My previous forays into origami had ended poorly, but I was so excited to begin my quest that this detail seemed inconsequential. My art teacher loaned me a piece of origami paper and, armed with an online tutorial, my quest began. Like an early prototype of the airplane, I ascended towards my dreams for a glorious moment before nosediving into the ground. The first crane was a disaster, a failure of wrinkly lines and torn paper. Too embarrassed to ask for another, I turned to my stack of Post-it notes. By the third attempt, I ended up with a sticky paper crane. Holding that delicate bird, I was flooded with triumph and elation. The first 200 cranes were all crafted from Post-it notes. Armed with a pack of highlighters, I decorated each piece of paper individually. I folded cranes at home, between classes, and in the car. My fingers were permanently sticky from the glue I scraped off every square. Slowly, my collection grew. First 10, then 50, then 100. Before the task could become monotonous, I started experimenting. How small was it possible for a crane to be? Smaller than a golf ball? Smaller than a dime? Small enough to sit on the end of a pencil? Any size was attainable. I could make a crane smaller than almost any arbitrary form of measurement. Soon, I could finish a crane in 50 seconds or with my eyes closed. Anything square and foldable became my medium. Paper towels, candy wrappers, and aluminum foil joined my vibrant menagerie of carefully folded paper. I was unstoppable. That wish was as good as mine. By 600 cranes, the increasing demands of high school academics caused my pace to slow. I despaired. I wouldn't let this be another ambitious project that I couldn't finish. My cranes mattered to me. As an outlet for expression, they served as a way to diffuse frustration and sadness, and a source of pride and joy. Their creation allows me to bring beauty to the world and to find a sense of order in the bustle and chaos of life. There's a lot of beauty to be found in tiny things. I'm reminded that little gestures have a lot of meaning. I have given away cranes to my friends as a pick-me-up on bad days, and I have made cranes to commemorate people, such as the dark green crane I made the day my grandmother died. They are a symbol of hope to remind me what I've accomplished. So, I pushed myself to keep working and to keep folding one crane at a time. My determination paid off, and in the summer after sophomore year, my passion was reinvigorated. 1 month before the end of junior year, I folded my 1,000th paper crane. As I leaned over the open drawer brimming with origami pieces in a multitude of sizes and colors, I felt a rush of satisfaction and triumph. Not only was 1,000 cranes an achievement in its own right, but I proved to myself that I can finish what I start. The world is filled with big numbers. College tuition, monthly rent, and car prices deal in the many thousands. Those figures are incomprehensible to someone who has never interacted with anything so large, and I wanted to understand them. 1,000 will never simply be a number to me. It is hundreds upon hundreds of hand-folded cranes combined with years of effort. So what did I wish for? It turns out I didn't need the wish. I learned I have the power to make things happen for myself. That's her college essay. And that got her admission to a fantastic school here in the United States. What did you learn about her from reading or listening to her essay? What do you know about Jody? I'm sorry? She's determined. The determination comes through and it seems authentic because it's presented as a story, which is kind of evidence. Anything else that you know about her besides determination? She's compassionate. She gives paper cranes away to friends to lift their spirits. She made a paper crane to commemorate her grandmother dying. She also has the mature ability to contextualize, to see things in perspective. When things are getting her down, when chaos is there, she folds a paper crane to center herself and to calm herself. In understanding huge numbers, she understands huge numbers because she's made a huge effort to fold 1,000 paper cranes. She has maturity, determination, and compassion. And the Johns Hopkins people say, please come to our campus. We want you here as part of our team. She introduced herself to them personally. And you all have the opportunity and really the burden to do the same thing. So let me talk about a few ways or a few pieces of advice you should consider when you're doing that. Number one, this is not a high school English essay. Please do not write it as such. Do not write 5 paragraphs with a thesis statement at the end of the first paragraph with proper transition hooks in between paragraphs and a conclusion that leaves the reader thinking about something at the end. So if you think about everything that your English teachers have told you about that kind of restrictive sort of analytical essay, realize what they were doing. They were training you in basic writing skills that are absolutely vital. But now it's time for something more advanced. It's time for something more grown up. So don't just think that you're writing an analytical essay. I've seen college essays that look like they came out of a high school English class because the little students, the little soldiers, take their orders and they execute the process they've been taught. It's time to be a bit more creative. Jody was a bit more creative. I encourage you to go to the Johns Hopkins site. You're going to see some creative writing that's even more creative than Jody's was. Common App prompt. Describe a problem you've solved or a problem you'd like to solve. It can be an intellectual challenge, a research query, an ethical dilemma. Anything that is of personal importance, no matter the scale. Explain its significance to you and what steps you took or could be taken to identify a solution. If you think about this as a 5-paragraph essay, what are your 3 subpoints? Okay, it's a 4-paragraph essay. Great. What are your 2 subpoints? It doesn't fit this prompt. A story fits this prompt perfectly. So if you tell a story about yourself, it's much more likely to succeed. You can still convey a main idea, the determination that's conveyed by Jody. The theme of aimlessness that I tried to weave into mine, all of that can be conveyed. So you can still kind of have some of the training of an English essay, but don't try to fit it into that structure. And please don't write a thesis statement. This is not where you do that. Even though a main idea should come out clearly. As I've been saying, your story is most important. So look at this other Common App prompt. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. That prompt is so general and open, it's an invitation for you to basically do whatever you'd like in introducing yourself. A background, identity, interest, or talent, well, that's anything. It could be anything. You can tell any story about yourself that you'd like, because they're basically saying, here's an open space. Tell us something you want to know about yourself. And telling stories is a perfectly excellent way to convey who you are. Somebody asked me in one of the sessions today, what kind of story should I pick? So I tell any story about myself? No. Why did she pick the Thousand Cranes story? It had meaning to her, so it's very personal. That's excellent. So that's a good quality of a story. What?
It was unique.
It was unique. Excellent. What else?
Describes like a long time period in her life.
Oh, good. So it describes her character over continuity of years. Excellent. Not just one isolated moment. That's good. Wow, these are all answers that I didn't anticipate. They're fantastic answers. You guys have excellent answers to this. The one I was thinking of also, so we have 4 answers, is it reveals a character trait that admissions officers want to see. Determination, perseverance. So if you think, hey, can I tell a story about my first birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese? That was awesome. I really liked that. Those little tubes like a hamster up there. I could use descriptive imagery and we're gonna have all sorts of fun. No, please don't. Although I'd love to read that, but not for this. Why? Because it's not gonna reveal anything about you that makes you valuable for a college campus. So, can you write things about you as a little kid? Yes, if you connect it to who you are now as a young adult. So if you tell a story about yourself as a child, and then you connect that to how it shaped your character and how that still stays with you today as an adult, great, go for it. But remember, these are admissions officers wanting to know how well you will succeed on their college campus. So make sure the story has some relevance to some kind of character trait that makes you a great part of the team, a great researcher, a great student, a great peer leader, a great mentor, something that is valuable for, and I'm going to say it again, being part of a team. They want to know that you are an excellent addition to a campus community, not just an isolated student sitting there in a desk in a room. Know that school. Some of you will write supplementals beyond the Common App for a variety of reasons. Scholarships or admission to an individual engineering school or a music school, or perhaps the college doesn't even do the Common App and they have their own writing prompts. Some of those look like this. This is from Northwestern. What are the unique qualities of Northwestern and of the specific undergraduate school to which you are applying that make you want to attend the university? In what ways do you hope to take advantage of the qualities you've identified? If you don't know the school going into this, you can't write this. Do the research. Be specific. I've seen a lot of students do excellent work on finding out exactly what that college offers. What's the name of the specific internship program or study abroad program or mentorship program? They mention that program by name, they talk about it in details if they know it, and then they talk about how they would fit perfectly into it. I know one, I was coaching through some writing for the University of Pennsylvania, and he talked about the community outreach programs that the business school had. I think it was the Wharton School of Business. And they invest themselves in the Philadelphia area with community outreach programs. He talked about those community outreach programs and how he would be a part of that. That shows that he knows the school. They want to know that you know the school. So if you were writing something like this for OSU and you said, well, why would I be a good fit for OSU? I like OSU football. I watch it every time I can, and I've got OSU socks and stuff. So I would be great on the OSU campus. No. What are you applying for at OSU? Are you applying for an engineering program, a biology program? Let's say you're going for a biology program. And what sort of faculty is there? Can you find anything out about the faculty? What kind of programs do they have? What kind of classes do they have? What sort of classes would you take? And what sort of research opportunities are there? Do the undergraduates work with the graduates to do research, like field research? If so, that's something you could talk about. Do that research. All that information is available on their websites. In fact, some of them actually have blogs from students going to those schools talking about cool things that they do. Read those blogs. Take something from there and weave it into what you write. They want to know who you are, but they also don't want to be insulted by thinking that they are one of a dozen different applications that you are writing. Make them feel like that's the one school you would want to go to, even if it's your number 4 choice. Finally, do the work. And I mean a lot by that. You're obviously here either because Mr. Swaggerty just bullied you into being here, or because you're interested in writing a great college essay and getting into the school of your choice. That means that you're ready to do work. Here are a couple things that I mean by that. Number 1, do it early. You're probably looking at a November 1st deadline. Get started now if you haven't done so already. You need the time. So do not wait until the week before thinking you're going to write it effectively. And you might say, oh, I can write an essay with no problem. I'm talking about a different kind of writing. Here's what I'm talking about. Write it, and then walk away from it for a couple days. So if you spend a few hours writing this essay, remember, you might be doing research for some of this. So that's more time. You spend some time writing this essay, don't proof it or revise it immediately, because your brain's all addled from having written the essay, so it's not seeing clearly. Walk away from it for a day or two, and then revisit it with fresh eyes. You'll see something you wouldn't have seen otherwise. So that's time. Secondly, I want you to reach out to somebody else. There are 3 levels of folks that I want you to think about reaching out to. The first is in this room. Everybody here is interested in writing college essays. Find a friend who's doing the same thing and say, here's my Common App essay. Why don't you share with me yours? People that care and know what they're doing give good revision. And that can be your fellow students. Number 2, think about family members. They care about you. So older brothers or sisters, mothers or fathers, and you might think, well, you know, my dad doesn't really do anything with anything I'm connected to. He's never helped me with an English essay. Yeah, but he probably cares about you. And if you're telling a story about yourself, he'd give some amount of good advice. Maybe he doesn't catch the grammatical errors, but he's going to give you something that you can listen to. So reach out to family members. The third level, your teachers and counselors here at Northview. Talk to them. Give them college essays. Give them the college essays, by the way, well in advance. Do not give them a college essay 2 days before you need it. And think, well, it's going to automatically go to the top of their agenda, right, of things to do. Not necessarily. So give it to them in a good amount of time. What we have to realize is that the teachers here, the English teachers and other teachers, are interested in helping you out. It was practically a part-time job for me at Southview in proofing college essays and writing recommendation letters in the fall. And I was happy to give up that time when I had it. Teachers here will be the same. So make sure that you're reaching out to them. I don't care if it's Mr. Wachowiak or Mrs. Schlegel or Mr. Christie. If you think that Mr. Christie is into engineering and math and he knows the calculus, he might provide a nice perspective on your story about characteristics for an engineering school. Reach out to those teachers, but give them the time that they need. Always include the prompt so they know what prompt you're responding to, and you might even give them some guidance. Hey, can you take a look at this because I'm unsure of X? And that will help them revise. So if you have done the research, you've taken the time to write, you've taken the time to revise yourself, and then you've taken the time to actually reach out to several other folks, that takes time. Now you're starting to realize that, yeah, I'm talking about a month's worth of work, and we're getting close to that November 1st deadline. At the center of all that work is you. As revision advice comes your way, remember that you can take it or disregard it as you will. I have given revision advice on a college essay, and another teacher gives sort of contrary or conflicting revision advice on that same essay. It's up to the student to decide which advice he or she wishes to take. So make sure you're being intelligent about the revision from all sources. And all of this is taking time. So if you do that work, you can end up with a college essay every bit as good as Jody's. It just takes collaborative, time-intensive effort to do it. But if you do that, then you'll be able to present yourself as you are. You are all valuable, unique individuals. And I know some of you might laugh when I say that, but I truly believe that. I also believe that good writing is the only thing that reveals that in this context. Because right now in your transcripts, you're going to look identical to a lot of other kids. Sorry, adults. I want you to look more than that. I want you to look as unique and powerful as you are. So make sure that carries through in your writing. Any questions? Yeah.
Was that essay that you read like sort of a typical essay, or is that a lot different than most of the essays you see?
It's what I try to coach students to. So if and it's an excellent question, so sorry about the complicated answer, but if a student comes up to me and says, hey, I need to write a college essay, and they have one already, they've got a draft, often it looks like an English essay. That's what I usually see. So no, it doesn't usually look like Jody's. But if they come up to me like really early, like sometimes during the summer, and they say, hey, I've got to write this comment out prompt. Can you help me? I'm like, have you written it? No. Okay, then let's talk about personal stories of you, and then I lead them in that direction from the outset. But yeah, that's why I said that thing about English essays. They usually come to me looking like a variation on a high school English essay.
So like at the end of the process, they look more like that?
Yes, absolutely. At the end of the process, they look more like a story. Some of them even have dialogue. So they read like a story, but with that woven message about the characteristic that's in there. Yeah. Other questions?
Mr. Carson, do you
Yes.
think it would be a good idea because I know for some of my students, it's met with some of the seniors that I've met with, but it's hard for me because I don't know you guys like other people know you.
No, that's an excellent point. I had a problem with a student once that I was trying to help through college essays, and he just couldn't come up with a good idea. And you're right, I didn't know him personally, not to that depth. So I did actually tell him, go talk to your parents. Say you're struggling with this, you need a good story, or just a character trait of me that is valuable. And yeah, I actually did kind of assign him homework of going and dialoguing with his family to get that
So
information.
that might give you that springboard of a story to write because I don't know a lot open-ended topic be? What would my story be? I haven't done anything, is what they told me. It's remember that, yes, I've got a great resume, yes, I've got a great GPA, well, I don't really have a kind of land in their mind. I'm telling you, not land, it's just we have to find the right story.
What's really funny about people your age is that you think nothing really happens. I learned nothing in school, nothing is interesting in school, and nothing ever happens in my life. And you're wrong on all three of those counts. And sometimes we adults with much more experience can see the value and can see a story or something that happened in your life that is very valuable that maybe you don't even see. So yes, having those discussions can help. But remember also that stories often become as powerful as you make them through the writing. So if you think something doesn't necessarily seem as powerful or as expressive as you want it to be, perhaps with writing it can be such. Like I said, the Chuck E. Cheese story can't be anything. So you can't say that about all stories. But many stories can become something. You broke your arm playing a certain sport. How'd you react to it? Could that be a story that demonstrates something, if written in the right way? Sure. You lost a debate round, and it was your third loss in a row at a certain tournament. Can that story become something? Absolutely, that story can become something. Those are just the common experiences that you folks have, both in and out of school. Those common experiences can become extraordinary insight into who you are as a person, if written in the right way. But that's, once again, about the work, making sure that it goes in front of somebody.
Is it acceptable to add elements of fiction to your essay?
In what way would you add
I
fiction?
mean, just to like embellish things maybe?
Somebody asked me in an earlier one, how do they know if it's genuine? Or no, actually, the way she asked it was an intelligent question. She said, do they know if it's not genuine? An intelligent reader, and these are intelligent readers, must assume they're critical readers, know when something is obviously false, if it's fake. So here's my advice, and this is what I said to that student. You better be a damn good writer if you're going to weave fiction into it. Because good English teachers can smell plagiarism and falsity from a mile away. Imagine if I were speaking and suddenly Mrs. Burnworth's voice came out of my mouth. You'd be like, what's that? That's the English teacher's reaction to plagiarism and fiction.
Yeah.
It renders false. I used to have debate and speech students that would make stuff up in rounds too. And some of them got away with it because they were fantastic speakers and writers, but most of them it just rang false. So I would advise not doing that because you can't be sure of your own voice coming out as being authentic.
And I believe you have more in the stories, so you don't have to.
I was just wondering in general.
No, can
I'm
you?
saying in general of all you guys, I think if you guys do it the right way, if you craft it the right way, you guys all have a story to say.
Agreed. And if it's a minor detail that you need to just kind of gloss over, like you don't remember the street name or something like that where that happened, who cares? But if you're making major fabrications, then you're into problem territory. Any other questions? Those are excellent, by the way. Thank you.
Can